A very good evening to you. Welcome to the West Ham Voice, the West Ham Weekly on Monday night. Well, I had the normal show lined up, all the stuff about looking at the game, reflection on the game against Man City, all the latest loan news and stuff like that. But of course, something that has come up today has taken precedence over all of that. And that, of course, is the news about Lopetegui was sacked, but then wasn't sacked, but looks inevitably to be sacked. And I guess that's going to take precedence on this show tonight, because I haven't, what I will do with the normal West Ham Weekly show that I do, about the game and about loan signings, and of course the latest transfer news, is I'll bring you that tomorrow evening. So I'll do the normal West Ham Weekly Tuesday night, but this will be a West Ham Weekly special to just focus on the stories and the news and the circus that has come out this evening, or this afternoon, should I say. And it all started, of course, earlier in the day when TalkSport decided to put out a tweet to say that Lopetegui had been sacked. And that was maintained for quite some time. And of course, as usual, you'd want to hear it from other sources, and waiting for Sky Sports and waiting for the BBC and various sources like that to come out and corroborate that story. But nothing materialized. And then, of course, later in the day, TalkSport backtracked and suggested that it is going to happen, but it hasn't happened just yet. Now, did they mess up? Now, I've been told one thing. That's apparently TalkSport broke the news too early. Apparently it is news, but they broke it a little bit too early. What does that do? What does that do to Lopetegui? What does that do to the reputation of West Ham? And what does that do as a whole? People looking at us as a club, the board and everything. Now, when I was trying to get information, the details of how true is this, I was told later in the day, I think about 5 o'clock, well, Lopetegui's wrapping up. He did the training session at Rush Green today. He took the training session. He was wrapping up for the day. He was still in the office at the training ground at about 4:30, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, oblivious to any news that he was about to get sacked. But you've got to start asking yourself, surely, if something so serious is being broken, something obviously is in the pipeline. And I believe, my understanding is that this is going to happen. It's now a matter of when and not if. And of course, the main individual that is likely to replace Lopetegui is Graham Potter. We've been hearing about the Graham Potter links for quite some time. And then, of course, last week we heard, he's run out of patience. He's not waiting anymore. But I was told today, now, one of the reasons why there's been a delay on Potter is because Potter himself thinks that quite possibly he's worthy of a far better job than West Ham United. Now, I don't know how true that is. Of course, you hear an awful lot of rumours from various sources. So that's why I'm pleased that I was told before I went online that it's not just Graham Potter in the running. Now, let's get the individuals that are not in the running out of the way straight away. David Moyes is not in the running. I was told yet again that one of the things that the board have looked at with regards to David Moyes, as much as they admire what David Moyes has done for West Ham United in terms of stabilising us, getting us into Europe on a regular basis, top half finishes and all that sort of stuff, the downside was certainly started at this time last year when we started to lose games and we started to concede something. What did we concede? 79 goals or something like that in total. And you could see that things were beginning to slip from there. So that's partly the reason why David Moyes is not being considered. And also because we've set up a new process, haven't we? Or we're supposed to have set up a new process, with the likes of Tim Steiden in as technical director. And then there was meant to be a head coach coming in who was going to work alongside Steiden, in tandem, that new setup, the new ethos, the new working way that we're meant to have at West Ham. And we've done this before. We did this under Pellegrini and Husilos, and that didn't go too well either. And it's happened again where, we set up what we thought was a way forward, a new way of working, a new way of doing transfers, a new way of doing coaching the team, etc. But again, it's fallen away. I'm going to talk about Steiden in a minute as well, but let's get this news out of the way. Where are we at this moment in time? Well, my understanding is that Lopetegui is on borrowed time. He will be leaving the club. It's now a case of if, not. It's now a case of when rather than if. Now, some have suggested, there's an interesting comment I got from someone I see at games, etc., and a follower of the channel, who said that maybe we'll wait until after the Aston Villa game, because if we don't succeed, now I'm going to try and talk this through, because if we don't succeed against Aston Villa in the FA Cup, that's another KPI missed by Lopetegui, which would mean that any payoff would be even less than he would be eligible for at this moment in time. That's quite a valid approach. That's quite valid. But at the same time, I'm thinking to myself, well, if we won against Aston Villa, what then? We can't then sack him after a win. So I think that, Lopetegui going is going to happen. And it's going to happen probably within the next 24 hours, if not sooner. I think the more realistic issue is making sure that we've got a replacement in place, making sure that we've got someone that's going to come in and hit the ground running, really, with the second half of this season. And of course, it's all about, at this moment in time, looking like Graham Potter. Now, when I was told that there are other people in the running, I thought good, because it means that we're not beholden to just one individual, that we've got other individuals to consider. I've already discounted David Moyes. We can also discount Cooper. He was at the game at the weekend, the Man City game, along with David Moyes as well. But Steve Cooper is another one that I've been told, no, we're not looking at that particular individual either. It's really only between two head coaches, and Gary O'Neill is another one. From what I understand this afternoon, is that Gary O'Neill's entourage, his agent, etc., has basically thrown his, is said that if it was available, I know there's only one L in O'Neill, my apologies. If this job is available, then Gary O'Neill would definitely be interested in the role. So I think that's interesting as well. I think having two individuals potentially available for the job means, like I've just said, you're not beholden to one. I mean, then, if it's only Potter, he could say, well, I want this and I want that and I want 10 million a year and I want whatever. Whereas if you've got some bargaining power and some bartering, that you've got another individual interested in the role, then you can kind of, and rightly so, it's business, you can kind of play one off the other. Now, do I have a preference for either or? No, to be quite honest with you, but I'll be asking you guys what preference you might have. And I don't know which of these two would be better. Now, of course, one of the things is, will it be an interim role or will it be a long-term role? Now, maybe Gary O'Neill might be a better interim. Potter might go, well, I don't really want this. I want to hold out for something different, something better. I don't know what job he thinks will be better. When you think about, the top jobs in the Premier League, Liverpool have got a new manager, Chelsea have got a new manager, Man United have got a new manager, maybe Tottenham Hotspur. Maybe he thinks he's waiting for that. Maybe he thinks that's a better role for him rather than West Ham United. That's a possibility, because I can't think of any other club. I hate calling Spurs a top six club, but I can't think of any other club in that top end of the Premier League that would need that would need a manager at this moment in time. Newcastle United, maybe. I'm not so sure that Newcastle are getting rid of their manager anytime soon. It's possible. Anything's possible. But I guess the only role that Potter might be hanging out for is probably the Spurs role. And Postecoglou apparently is on thin ice at Tottenham Hotspur. Now, if Tottenham Hotspur were to get rid of Postecoglou, hold fire. Let's bring him in, because at least it'd be interesting. We'll certainly be playing exciting football, because I'm just not sold on Graham Potter. To be honest with you, I'm just not. There's something in my head about Graham Potter that just makes me go, I don't know. I'm not sure. If there's one thing that probably I do know, is that Potter is likely to be better using this set of band of players than Lopetegui is. I think he'll probably get a better tune out of them. But then I think a half-decent manager, a half-decent head coach is likely to get a better tune out of the squad we've got, because the squad is all right. It's not the worst squad in the world. Yes, we've got players who aren't playing to their potential, but as a lot of fans have been saying over the past, this whole season, is that they're not playing for the manager, the head coach. They don't believe in his strategy. They don't believe in his approach. They don't believe in what he's trying to achieve. Whereas someone else comes in, like the likes of Potter or whatever, then maybe things will be different. But if there's a choice to be had, and if Postecoglou really is on thin ice, how many of you would take Postecoglou as an alternative to any of the other head coaches and managers linked to us? Right, let's go into your chat, because there's no script tonight, so it's going to be what you guys say and what I suggest and so on. So let's go to the very top. Usual, I think I was on time tonight, wasn't I? Bang on past. Good evening to you, Phil. How are you? It is alive and well. Good evening, Toha. How are you? I hope you're well. Good evening, Snot. How are you? We can talk until the cows come home, until changing them about changing the manager again. But the real change won't only happen once Sullivan and co have left the building. Until then, expect several more years of circus. Well, let's expect several more years of circus. And one thing I have said about a future coach, okay, let's say, for example, that West Ham United are considering a short-term replacement. I'm all right with that. I don't think we're going anywhere with Lopetegui. I gave him an opportunity. I gave him a chance. I think we all have. We all wanted to see, let's see what he does. Let's see what he can bring to the table. Let's not, denounce him too soon. Let's see what he just has, halfway through the season, and you're seeing. Do you know what? I don't know how many of you saw my preview that I did of the Man City game. The one thing I said was, just don't mess around, Lopetegui. Keep it simple. And when I looked at the lineup, I kind of thought to myself, he didn't keep it simple when we played against Chelsea, where he played Alvarez as a sort of a makeshift centre back, and that went pear-shaped. He didn't keep it simple against Liverpool when he decided to play Emerson as a left-sided attacking midfielder rather than using Crescencio Somerville, who we saw looked absolutely superb, was my man of the match against Man City at the weekend. And all I was hoping for was, don't mess it up this weekend, and what did he do? Did he mess it up? I guess he went with a 4-1-4-1. I kind of think I wasn't too upset with the lineup, and I wasn't too upset with it. And I understood why Emerson didn't play now, because he was injured, and I understood why Wan-Bissaka was moved out onto the left. I guess maybe if there was anything I would have changed, would have been maybe Paquetá, who a lot of people said had a better game, but I don't know. Did he? I was there. I'm not too sure that he did. All right, let's take that back. He did have a better game, but he still kept giving the ball away. So maybe I wouldn't have necessarily played him, and maybe I would have put Mavropanos as right back. When he played as right back some weeks back, he looked quite good. Anyway, that aside, so we're going to have a few more years, I think, Snot, because I don't think the board are going anywhere just yet. I'm in trouble. As I promised, I'll take a shot every time Circus was mentioned in the chat. Good evening, Anthony. I hope you're well. Good evening to you, Sharky. How are you? Good evening, Danny Boy. How are you, mate? I hope you're well. Let's scroll down and try and catch up. Philip, there's loads of comments. 200, I think I read. Sorry about my info earlier. Other sites are saying older photograph. If so, why hasn't it come out before today? I'm really confused. That's all right, mate. It's not a problem. My understanding in the photograph that he's alluding to, Philip, is, of course, the photograph that we saw here. Now, from what I understand, when Snyder met Potter, apparently this was at the Leicester game. I might be wrong. I haven't had it corroborated anywhere. And apparently the Daily Mail, I think, said that it was today's photo. But I think this was a meeting. It doesn't matter when the photo was taken. The interesting point is that it was. It was taken with Tim Steidten talking to Graham Potter, which clearly implies that there's a link there with Graham Potter, that we have been speaking to him in some, that could have been just a friendly chat. Hello, mate. How are you? How's going? Everything well? You're spending your money wisely, the Chelsea money you were given. Or it could have been, how would you feel if that job became available? Which job? West Ham. It doesn't matter when it was taken. The fact of the matter is it's been published. Good evening to you, Green Suit Elites. How are you? Clive, I hope you're well. Matt, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. I tried so hard to continue to renew my season ticket, but I think this may be my last ever season. Going to be general sale and take the kids whenever I can. We died the second we left Upton Park. I'll never get over it. I get you, mate. I understand that. I can't tell you what to do. I'm glad I kept my season ticket because it showed me, it gave me a route into Europe and going to the European games. Who knows if we'll ever get there again. But you do what's right for you. But I don't know. Think twice. Elbow, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Good evening to you, John. Loppy finds out he's sacked via Talk Sport, not by the board. Left the training ground and no one from the club can't get hold of him to talk to. What's going on? Well, like I've just mentioned at the beginning of the show, my understanding is there's been no talk of him being sacked today. Elbow, none of the circus should surprise anyone. Business as usual for West Ham United. Do forgive me because I'm really going to try and get through quite a lot of these comments and catch up with you guys. Stephen, don't forget the special one. Yeah, let's forget the special one. Howard, good evening to you, mate. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. Who else have we got that I can say hello to and put out some comments? Anthony. Up and coming fixtures after our cup game: Fulham, Palace, Villa, Chelsea, Brentford, Arsenal, Leicester, Newcastle, and Everton. By the end of March, we'll be in the bottom three for sure. I don't agree. I know I know I'm always look at the positives, but I don't agree. I think we'll get enough points, even ironically, even if we keep Lopetegui, but it looks like he's gone. Mr. Turner, good evening to you. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. Good evening to you, Ambrose. How are you, mate? Never a dull moment. Jordan, good evening to you. Potter's system will suit us. Well, I'm going to talk about that in a moment. So bear with me because I don't know. Will it? Words. Good evening to you. Billy Smart can do a better job at running West Ham. Darren, are you any relation to Graham? I'm only kidding, mate. Good evening to you. Si, good evening, mate. Good evening, West Ham Massive. How are you? Andrew, we should really try hard to win the FA Cup, salvage something from this horrific season. The irony, we win another 10 games in the Premier League, we could still end up in Europe. That's how the season goes. But I agree with you. A cup run would be good. Chris, good evening to you. I hope you're well from Bridlington. How are you, mate? Good evening, Andrew. How are you, mate? Thank you for joining. Darren, you're not wrong, Andrew, but probably can't see that happening as we have Villa on Friday. You never know. Bowling Lounge, how are you? I hope you're well. Thank you for joining as well. Good evening to you, Dave. How are you, mate? Thank you for joining. Mark, I don't think we should all assume Potter will be our next head coach. Exactly that. I think he's favourite. My understanding is he's definitely favourite. But my understanding is, as I mentioned a moment ago, it looks like potentially Gary O'Neill might be the only other one. Now, has anyone else been mentioned? Well, because, up until the other week, there were something like about half a dozen, if not more, potential candidates. But my understanding is that the only ones that are seriously being considered this moment in time are Graham Potter and Gary O'Neill, with Potter being the favourite. Jordan, do you think Harry's system will suit us? I believe our attackers suit counter-attacking much better. I've said this for quite some time, to be quite honest with you, mates. I think we are a better counter-attacking football team than we are a team with possession. I don't mind the possession. I don't, Man City, and I know the scoreline tells us a different story, but ironically, and I know you're going to laugh, but ironically, we actually played quite well on Saturday. Yeah, here's the irony. We lost 4-1, but we had good, there was good movement. There was more forward movement. Kudus. And I think what made that better forward movement was Somerville. He made us click on Saturday. That through ball to Kudus in the first few minutes of the game, he could have squared it, couldn't he, to the big German. Barry, good evening to you. The leak came from someone with a German accent. Well, I said this. I did a show earlier on, and I said much the same thing, to be quite honest with you. And I've got to ask, what is Tim Steidten up to? Because we've been hearing for quite some time now that Tim Steidten has been leaking information to the press. He's got favorites, a certain number of journalists that he favors and gives information to. And this has become a power struggle. Now, my understanding is, I think we all heard earlier, is that he's been banned. Well, no, let me take that back. The official story is that he's not going to the training ground. He's working away from the training ground. That happened before, didn't it? When he was working away from the training ground with David Moyes as in charge. You remember that? So the same things happen. It seems that Timmy seems to be up to no good. He fell out with David Moyes. And let's not forget the pattern of how things happened last year. David Moyes was offered a contract at the end of December. He procrastinated and he waited. And then West Ham United withdrew that contract about 2 months later. It didn't happen soon after, even though David Moyes said that's not quite true. He procrastinated. West Ham United decided to go and remove that contract from the table. And that's when they started to look at the likes of Lopetegui, etc. And then all these leaks started to come through about David Moyes. And there was rumor that it was Steidten who was dropping these rumors to the press. Fast forward a year, all of a sudden, there's more rumors being dropped to the press about, let's not forget, I mean, Lopetegui's done it as well with Balage, talking about, all this stuff, this cryptic messages that Balage said a couple of months ago about things going on in the background and all that sort of stuff. So he does it too. So does Steidten, through various sources, dropping hints, etc. My thinking, now I can't corroborate this, I haven't had it proven, but my thinking is that Steidten dropped the hint to Talk Sport and they played it out a little bit too early, is what I think. So yeah, leaks coming from a German. I wouldn't be surprised. And again, the falling out of with a head coach, with a manager, happened very much the same thing as it did with David Moyes. And Steidten is playing a game, I think, and I think he's trying to protect his reputation. I was cock-a-hoot with Steidten. I remember when Steidten signed for us, I said this could be the most important signing for West Ham United in many a year. He's going to change the ethos of the club. My understanding of what he was meant to do was he was meant to align the whole club from academy through to the senior team, playing similar style of football and bringing in the academy players, from academy to senior, bringing in players that will fit into the system, etc. That's apparently what I thought he was going to do. What he's gone out and done is he's gone and bought, and I know he went and closed the deal for Kudus and Alvarez, etc. And last summer we were like, not summer gone, but the summer before, when we bought in Alvarez and Kudus, we were like Tim Steidten, and all this sort of stuff. We sang a song about him going to Amsterdam and all that stuff. I'm now beginning to think what role has Steidten had to play. I did a show last week about Tim Steidten and my understanding of what he's done, what he did back at Leverkusen, and perhaps he's not quite the Messiah that we all thought he was going to be. And I think he's ruined it with what he did in the transfer window. He went out to Brazil. He spent an awful long time out there. He needed to come back with someone. Did he come back with the right player? I even suggested that maybe he came back with the wrong young player. Apparently, he was after Wesley for quite some time. He was after Fabrizio Bruno, the centre-back, for quite some time. And maybe he thought, I can't come back from Brazil without, empty-handed. And then right at the end of the transfer window, he brought in a striker that, I don't know, maybe he'll improve. I think he looked all right at the weekend, actually. Nicholas Füllkrug, he looked a little bit more lively, but does he suit our system? I don't know. So I think Steidten is possibly playing a game to try and protect his reputation. Evening to you, Woodhammer. Not often do I get you. Well, thank you for doing so. Always look forward to catching up with you. Thank you, mate. Much appreciated. Who else have we got? Good evening to you, Kimbo. How are you? Obsidian, how are you, mate? That's like saying he's dead, then backtracking and saying he will be dead in the future. About the pronoun. Yeah. I mean, How did it come out? Why did it come out? Who gave Talk Sport that green light to go, yeah, you can run with this? Bad. Dave, being back in the chat brings memories of Upton, but that's good. That's good. Thank you. I like that. Huge good evening to you. Spurs are sniffing around Potter. Well, this is my point. I said it. If Spurs are sniffing around Potter, if Potter thinks he deserves a bigger club than West Ham United, do we hang out and wait for Postecoglou to be sacked? Would you take Poster? If I give you a choice now, Postecoglou or Potter, which one would you have? I'd be interested to find out. Potter wants the Spurs job. There you go. Victor, good evening to you. Sky have said tonight West Ham have held talks with Potter. If they agreement with Loppy will be sacked, Everton are also could move for Potter if Deitch leaves. He won't go to Everton. I think I make you guys right. I think Potter is looking for a bigger club. Maybe he thinks Spurs are a bigger club. Steve, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Hearing Sully wants Cooper. I don't know where you heard that from. If that happens, I'm done with this club. No, that I've been told quite categorically. Cooper is not being considered for this job. Huge. Good evening to you. Just like Duran with dithered too much could lose the opportunity of getting Potter. I don't mind. Am I the only one that doesn't mind if we lose Potter? I'm not convinced by him. Phil, Sky Sports have said now said agreement in principle. Principle is agreed. Loppy is gone. There you go. Andy, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Good evening to you, Ronnie. Let's be fair, Stel could do better than Loppy. I chatted with him earlier. I hope you're well, mate. I didn't see you at the Man City game. I don't know if you went to that. Are you going to Villa at the weekend? Friday. Mark, has the news been leaked to speed things up? Do you think maybe someone who wants Potter in? It's a bad way of doing business. Yes, I think it's been leaked. Maybe the person that leaked it knew what the shitstorm it would have created. Quite possibly. I'm not so sure it's a good thing, though. Doesn't put us in a good light. There was a time when I would have said that if someone thinks they're too good for West Ham, then they can go away. But given how badly we're run these days, don't blame Potter for thinking that. No. If he doesn't want to come to West Ham, then he can sod off and go to Tottenham. Gary, good evening to you. I hope you're well, mate. Andrew, let's just bring Potter in until the end of the season, or also Dan Ashworth in the summer as sporting directors. They work well together. I like that, Ashworth. Yeah. Richard, good evening to you, mate. Good evening to you, Tony. Potter has been offered the job. Potter yet to make a final decision. That's from Steinberg a minute ago. There you go. He needs to make a final decision. That was half an hour ago when you wrote that. So that's half hour old now. There you go. Everyone is saying it now. West Ham are in talks with Potter. Now it's down to Potter, basically. It's down to whether Potter actually wants the job or not. If he procrastinates, move on, to be honest with you. Sully will Potter about resulting in Potter getting... Sully will Potter about resulting in Potter getting a job at another club. I didn't understand that, mate. Please do explain that. Mark, good evening. According to sources, Stein is set to be relieved of duties. Yes, that is also true. And Carl McCauley takes over as sporting director working with Potter. That's apparently the plan I had. Now, that's news to me. But let's talk about that for a second, because Steiden is on thin ice. We've already heard that Tim Steiden's role in this January window is reduced to just a glorified scout. I think he's burnt his bridges, to be honest with you. I think we were expecting something quite special to happen in the summer transfer window. Let's not forget what Steiden did. He brought his entourage in. He brought Maximilian Hahn, who's the data analyst, the data guru that was going to look for, help to unearth these pearls that he was meant to find from wherever. That hasn't really materialized. And then he's brought his brother in, Max. What's his name? It's not another Max. I've forgotten, but he's another Steiden, of course. He's brought his brother in as an international scout. What have we done there? When I look at our transfer window, I'm trying to sort of compare it to transfer windows of previous years, previous summers. And I'm finding it really, really difficult to differentiate between the transfer window we had under Steiden, fully in control. under Steiden and the transfer windows that we've had of old. Now, I know what you're going to say. Well, hang on a minute. You can't have Lopetegui buying players, and you can't have Sullivan buying players, and you can't have Steiden buying players as well. That's not my understanding of how things were meant to work. Apparently, Steiden was meant to go and get the core of this team. He comes back with Guilherme. All right, he might come good. But did we need an up-and-coming player in this window when we had to get 9 players in order to get strength in depth in that squad? I don't know. I hope Guilherme proves me wrong. I actually like him. Every time I've seen him play, the 3 cameo roles he played, even against Man City, I thought, yeah, there might be a player there. Nicholas Fulkrug, okay, unfortunate. He's been injured. Well, is he the type of striker we needed? I don't know. You're going to argue, well, if only we got Duran. Well, as I keep saying, Aston Villa would have had to wanted to sell Duran. They would have sold Duran if they had a replacement for Duran. Because they didn't have a replacement for Duran, they weren't going to let him go. We were near as damn it to the offer that they wanted, but they've still procrastinated. But Nicholas Fulkrug, was he the right player? All right, so he got an injury. How would it have been? I mean, he scored 2 goals and he's assisted in 1, which I guess since he's come back from his injury is not bad. And then you look at other players. Rodriguez. Definitely not the right sort of player for the Premier League, without a shadow of a doubt. You look at Soler. I think Soler's all right. Possibly being bought in because we don't know what's going to happen to Paquetá when his hearing happens in March. So maybe that's a reasonable choice. Somerville. Everyone is saying Somerville was a Sullivan signing. Well, no. Obviously, Salthouse said to Sullivan, "There's this player. Are you interested?" What Sullivan did was he gave it to Steiden to go and finish the deal. That's the right thing to do. So I think Kilman, is Kilman a £40 million central defender? That Lopetegui clearly wanted him, but if Steiden was meant to be fully in charge, wouldn't he have turned around and gone, hang on a minute, pal, I've got a much better player for you than him? I don't know. It's all of it. I don't know. You could argue that Steiden's role was made difficult, but then I would argue, the decisions that he directly made left a lot to be desired. Colin, people tell me within 24 hours, but contract details are being ironed out. Being told 2 people in running for the job. People talk about work at the club and in the. Let's see what happens in the next 24 hours. Pat, good evening to you. Oh dear. His name's gone. His name's gone because I hate him. That's why his name's gone. Paul, how are you? Look at us. Can we stop mucking about with silly managerial chumps? I've got unused Eurostar vouchers. We should apologise, eat humble haggis, and get back our beloved Robert the Bruce. Oh, Paul Peters. You've all seen Paul Peters. He's done a couple of reviews with me after the game. Doesn't know what he's talking about. Juha, good evening to you. This is when our season starts to go worse than when people think or wish. I hope it doesn't get any worse. Ronnie, surely progressing in the cup is worth more than keeping him and losing. I want to see a cup run, but I also don't want to see us going down either at the same time. Darren, who will be training the players until our new manager takes over if Lopetegui goes? Well, I guess that's why they're negotiating for someone to come in straight away. But I guess there'll be interims, Steve Potts and Kevin Keane or something like that. O'Neill has thrown his teeth into the ring. He sure has. Huge. Before Christmas, Potter was a shoo-in, but our dithering has let Spurs in. O'Neill and Cooper are championship level. Probably sums us up. Excuse me. Night on the tiles. Good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Everything seems so public with Lopetegui. Maybe Sullivan hopes he'll resign so he saves a few pennies rather than paying him in full. I don't know. It depends on who's leaked it. I think the Germans leaked the story. Mick, it's not just about getting a new head coach in. Poppy will take his staff with him. So they need backfilling as well. We'll have we'll have the likes of Steve Potts. We'll have the likes of Kevin Keane. We'll probably oversee the cup game. Now, imagine if we do that until the entourage are all in. I think what's happening is the reason why Lopetegui has not yet been sacked is because we're making sure that whoever we get, whether it be Potter, O'Neill, whoever it may be, are ready to come in with their backroom staff in order to take over almost immediately. Belaine, saw a rumour today that Turgic is also still in the wings. Any truth in that? That's gone quiet, to be quite honest with you, mate. I've not heard anything recently. Stephen, I said Gary O'Neill before they appointed Lopetegui. Jerry, good evening to you. O'Neill could work. I suppose Potter is in the driving seat. Who else we got? Matt, breaking news. West Ham hold talks with Mr. No Personality. Sky Sports just seen it. Who else have we got? Let's scroll down. Ronnie, let's be fair. O'Neill is not much of an improvement. If he wants Tottenham, we can try for Ange. I'm asking you the question now, so I'll get down to it because I'm not far behind now. Do forgive me. I can't read out every comment. I do try, but do forgive me that I'm not reading every comment out. But if you had a choice, in the next day or two, Potter or Postecoglou, I think I'd go for Postecoglou, if I have to be honest with you. I think it'd be a fucking joyride, that's for sure. Who else have we got? Right, yes. 381 people watching. So if you're new to this channel, I would love you to hit that subscribe button. Please do. Please become a subscriber of the West Ham Voice. Doesn't cost anything to subscribe to the channel. All the content is free. So please do subscribe. But whether you subscribe or not, please hit that like button because it helps to elevate the channel. Michael, have been won over by the possibility of Potter, having listened to different points of view. I'm not sold on him yet. Andrew, we should make the Bournemouth manager an offer he can't refuse at the end of the season. Apparently he is. He's on £1 million a year and he'll have a year left of his contract at the end of this season. And I just wonder, maybe that's why we're going for an interim manager. Maybe the reason why we want an interim now is that we have more choices come the summer. And I would too. I would love Thomas Frank. No to Ange from Howard. Andy, apparently Fonseca has been sacked. Apparently he's another one that we're not looking at. Another one is on Will Sorthouse. Apparently I was told no. No way to Postecoglou. Good evening to you, Aaron. I hope you're well. Daniela, Andy, Amit. So what does not make it true? Because it's Sky Sports. They got things wrong before. If Potter wants a Spurs job, he's not talking to us. I'd make you right there. If the Spurs job becomes available, I think Potter will go to that. I really do. Lee, I'm playing catch up, 10 minutes behind. What a shambles this club is. Good evening to you and thank you for catching up. Thomas Frank is the man. And that's why maybe I'm wondering what West Ham United now. Sullivan has never paid off a contract in his life. Will he do that now? It's quite possible. I think I know it's Sullivan that has appointed Lopetegui, but I think even he's fed up the way it's gone. He's got egg on his face, hasn't he? Darren, all of us should dress up as clowns at the Wolves match with Sullivan masks. Simon, Will still should be looked at soon. Not yet for me. Maybe in a couple more years. What I want Will still to do is come to the Championship, prove himself there, and then maybe, get a team promoted into the Premier League and show what he can do before I take him on, to be honest, mate. Who else have we got in here? Finn. Free agent Potter, whose wife's being best friend with Brady, has absolutely nothing to do with this decision. It really does. Claire, good evening to you. Thank you for joining. TalkSport came out raging about it hours ago, and that's the first time Sky actually said anything. David M. Graham Potter got to be a lot better than all the old sell-by dates Pellegrini linked with, like Rafa Moyes went with Moyes, picking managers nobody wants. Cooper is another one. David is dithering. I don't think he is. I think he's making sure he's got all the T's crossed and the I's dotted. Lee, if we get a new stadium in the future, can we call it the Big Top? Elbow, if you look at our fixtures, it's hard to see how we'll get over 40 points with this band of players, given the injuries too. Paquetá is poor. Kudus is poor. We are lucky. Wamba, Saka, and Somerville are on form. With a new manager, who knows what we can get out of this team? I think we can get a lot more out of this team, to be quite honest with you. Who else have we got here? Watches, good evening to you. Potter ain't any better, just another easy option. Maybe that's why I'm not 100% convinced on Potter. I don't know. David M. Sullivan, David Sullivan has done it in a way that will make J-Lo walk rather than getting the sack. He stirs it up with TalkSport mess. That's possible. I think it's the German who's leaked that, to be honest. Colin, do not like the way Sullivan conducts his business. He's such a dodgy character, also involved with the underworld, and some of them I actually know myself. Sullivan is the biggest problem. Andrew, the majority of our players have been off the ball this season. Whoever comes in has a big job on his hands. Absolutely agree with that. Obsidian. They won't sack Loppy without any manager being agreed. If they have voted sack Loppy, the other guy is already in place. I agree with you. That's why I think there's procrastination on there, because we're waiting for the new manager, head coach, whatever you want to call him, to agree to the deal. And I think, Sky Sports have just said it as we're being on live tonight. I think it's just a matter now of just waiting for that agreement to be cemented, and Lopetegui's on his way. Excuse me a sec. Victor, the Times paper is saying Potter has been off the job and will be in charge for the Fulham game. No, well, what I was told earlier today was it's very likely that Lopetegui will not be in charge of the next league game. Now, that you can construe that. You can look at that in one of two ways. You can either think, right, well, he'll be sacked today, tomorrow, next, end of the week, after the Aston Villa game, etc. What I'm understanding is he won't be in charge of the next league game. Doesn't mean he'll be in charge of the FA Cup game this coming Friday. As people have alluded to, there's quite possible that he'll be sacked. But by the time whoever comes in, whether it be Potter or whatever, by the time he gets all his entourage organised, they won't be possibly ready until the Fulham match. So we might see an interim solution in terms of the likes of Kevin Keane, Steve Potts, etc., looking after the FA Cup game. That's the way I'm reading that. Epic Steinberg just tweeted that Sullivan has offered the job to Potter, but Potter hasn't decided if he wants it. As I've said, Potter thinks he's bigger than West Ham. Maybe Potter is waiting for the Spurs job. If Potter is waiting for the Spurs job, would you not take Ange Postecoglou? John, good evening, mate. I see that Smirksdale, it's like you saw something coming. So much for being on the fence. Welcome back to the circus. Michael, think we can beat Villa if Lopetegui is no longer manager for that game? Yeah, new manager bounce, as people say. Anthony, new manager will hopefully gives up a win against Aston Villa. Alf Garnett will be better than Potter. Who else have we got here? Darren Stelios. Would you dress up as a clown wearing Sullivan's face with the rest of us? Imagine the whole ground doing that. If everyone did it, I would probably take a photo of you all. The man whose name I always want to forget, Paul Peters. The managerial position aside, we're once again lucky that there would be three worse teams than us results-wise to keep us in the league. God, you're half glass empty, aren't you? So doom and gloom. Doom and gloom. I'll see you Friday. And then we'll have a drink after the game and have a curry or whatever. John. Gio reckons the link why Brady is all for Potter is because of Paul Pesky-Solidu, as they play together at Brum. Nothing to do with Brady, is besties with Potter's missus. I think it's all, all linked, isn't it? Colin, a new manager might shake things up and wake up some of the squad. I agree with that. I do. Dave, Kudus might change his mind with a new head coach. He's going at the end of the season regardless, but change his mind in summer? Who knows? Watches. I would love to have seen Edin Terzic, as he has already got experience with West Ham and did an amazing job as well. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think Terzic. Yeah, why not? I think he'll stabilise us without a shadow of a doubt. Sharky, if Potter comes in, do you think Dan Ashworth will also join? It depends on whether it's for the long term or not. My understanding is at this moment in time, West Ham are looking at a short-term solution with the potential of it being long-term. Very much like what they did with David Moyes the second time round. Keep us up again for the second time, mate, and who knows, you might get a 3-year contract, is what I think. What bugs me is more about Potter thinking he's bigger than West Ham. Darren, West Ham never do things the right way as a football club. In that respect, the footballing side of things, I agree. Robert, JWP got an assist for Forest, third goal. Was that the weekend? Did he play? Or are they playing tonight? They're playing tonight? I don't know. Forest won 3-0. Good evening to you, Stephen. How are you, mate? Thank you for joining. Who else we got? Usual. Prince Andrew is available. Let's not go there. Nick Fadley, good evening, mate. Forest shouldn't sit in third. It's not nice shocking everybody. Good luck to them. They're having a great season. Michael, Steiden is just playing Sullivan's leaking to the media games. I don't know, Steiden is not in Sullivan's good books at this moment in time. It's going to be interesting to see what happens once Potter goes. Once Lopetegui goes. Forest looked great. Obsidian. Imagine if Sullivan hired Nuno. But let's be really, really, really honest. If we hired Nuno, there you go. If Sullivan hired Nuno, though, we would have rioted and looked. Exactly. If we'd have hired Nuno, we would have gone, oh, what's he doing? Daniela, to the chat and to you, Stel, should we swap Kudus with Grealish if he does not want to be here? No. Maybe end of the season. Let's think about it then, but not now. Let's scroll down. Who else have we got? Bolin, I bet Kudus would be delighted with Houghton. Vonnie, still don't know what Max Hahn or Tim's brother is actually doing and what they're being paid for. Exactly that. I said that earlier on in the show. Max Hahn has come in with this reputation of data-driven analysis. What have we got out of that? I look at what Brighton do. They get it right all the time. And their players are brought in on this system that Brighton have got. It's all data-driven. They go and find a player none of us have ever heard about. They come and find, they get these players in. They play a season or two, and then off they go for 30, 40, 50, 60 million pounds. This is what we thought we were getting under Steiden and Max Hahn. And then Tim's brother, I can't remember his first name. It's not Max as well. But anyway, Timmy's younger brother or older brother or whatever he is international scout. What's he brought? Steinberg update. Oh boy, don't want Poster, no clue. Okay, so you don't want Postecoglou. That's interesting. I thought a lot of you, I'll be really honest, I thought many of you would have gone, why not Postecoglou? Why not Poster? Well, good, interesting. Gary, I think Timmy the German would be fine if Sully would just leave him alone, give him a decent coach to work with. I thought that too. I don't agree anymore. I think Timmy has been found out. When I did the show, when I did a bit more research, and thank you to the German supporter who supports West Ham as well, sent me quite a lot of details about some links about Leverkusen and their history and how they got. Steiden was overlooked for a promotion at Leverkusen. That pissed him off. Simon Rolfs is the sporting director of Leverkusen, and a role became available that Steiden was going to go for. He was overlooked for it. Apparently, they gave the job to a scout who was the brains behind Leverkusen and their success. Steiden took offense to that. That's why he fell out with Leverkusen, and that's why he became available, and West Ham snapped him up. I don't think Steiden has done himself any. He's been a bit found out, unfortunately. I think he's a good negotiator. I think he negotiates, he goes to these players. He's got a role to make, he convinced the likes of Kudus and Alvarez and all that, come to West Ham United. It's all great, blah, 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 all this sort of stuff. I think he's done that, good salesman. He sells a good story, but he's not necessarily the one that's finding the players. Dave said it before, but I can't help thinking Steiden bought the players with a head coach in mind until Sully pulled the rug from under him. Well, it's interesting. That's the other point of view. I don't know. Sullivan didn't pull the rug under him for, he didn't say to him, don't sign Guilherme. He didn't stop him from signing Guilherme. He didn't stop him from signing Rodriguez. He didn't stop him from signing Fulkrug. And let's be honest, we're all sitting there scratching our heads going, was that summer transfer window as good as we all thought it was meant to be? Andrew, is Nuno now a good coach, or does he just have players who run? If we scored 3 of our 31 chances against Leicester, or 3 of our 17 against City, would we be a good team? Good question. That's a good question. I think Nuno has got the best out of the players he's got available. Is that squad, is the Forest squad any better than our squad? I'd hasten to say probably not. I think we're at least on a par. So it's just having the right coach fitting in the right system, I guess. Mike, Sullivan is sabotaging this by leaking to TalkSport, so he can't get his own way. I don't know if it really was Sullivan. I don't know. I could be wrong. Kimbo, Ange is a glorious Bielsa, entertaining you but ain't winning a lot. There you go. Okay. Why was Cooper at the City game? Why was Moyes at the City game? They both were there. But I've been told quite categorically that neither Cooper or Moyes are being considered for the job. Andrew. Ange only has one way of playing. Great to watch, but he's been found out in the Premier League. We're only 1 point behind them. Not for me. Fair enough. That's fair enough. Ronnie, I was at City and on the 12:43 for Villa. 12:43. Mate, some of us have got to work. Still, I read the story came from Claret and Hugh. I don't know about that. Mark, I'm not saying that you're wrong, but I'm not sure. Mark, there was an outlet saying Steidten is set to be stepped down as sporting technical director and Carl McCauley come in to replace him. Now, that you're the second one that said about McCauley. I think that's interesting, and I'll look into that. That's quite possible. I think we are going to be looking for a new technical director. I think once Lopetegui goes, I think it won't be too long before you see Steidten leaving as well. Will he leave now or will he leave at the end of the season? That bit I don't know. But don't be surprised at all if you hear that Tim Steidten steps down from his role at West Ham United. Good evening, Ted. I hope you're well, mate. Leon, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Rumours Brady has pushed for Potter. That's not a rumour. That's definite. Apparently, she is the driving force behind wanting Potter to come in. Phil, Steidten may have leaked as Sullivan has been known for making dramatic U-turn. Martin O'Neill saga maybe leaked to force his hand. Maybe, possible. You could be right. You could be right. But I don't know at this moment in time, like I've said, Steiden's not known. Well, mind you, maybe he wants to get back in Sullivan's good books. Hence, he did it on behalf of Sullivan. Yeah, that could be possible. Jonathan, if it's only 6-month contract and there's potentially other jobs in the wings, they may offer longer contracts. Do you blame him if he wants time to decide? The trouble is we don't have time on our side. You know, we've got to make an offer. We've got to look, I don't know. My understanding is if it is Potter, it'll be initially 6 months with the potential of a longer-term deal. Whether that be the same offer to any other head coach who might be considered, I don't know. With regards to Potter, though, I think my understanding is it's 6 months with the potential of a longer deal. Potter, what's he got to lose? You know, if he believes he's that good a coach, then why not come in and see what happens? Michael, think it'll be 5-month contract with heavy caveats to extend it to a longer term one. Absolutely. Pete, we are not run like a circus, says Mark Noble. Well, there you go. Hayden, I'd be happy for Gary O'Neill in the interim. Michael Carrick, 25-26 onwards. This is the other thing about what we do moving forward. We really need, and I've said this before, I said it in a show last week, you know, whatever happens after this 6 months, you know, after the rest of this season, whatever happens in the summer, we've got to get a head coach in that's going to be looking at a 4 or 5 year project. And I asked you guys, you know, the fan base, will the fan base accept that? Will the fan base accept someone like a Michael Carrick, you know, coming in to oversee a 3, 4, 5 year project? It may not be successful for the first couple of years, you know, whilst we're finding our feet. We may struggle a little bit. But would you accept that? If you knew that we've got a young coach, you know, someone that's, you know, is going to be given time to develop the squad, you know, develop youth academy, all that sort of stuff. If we got someone in like that, but it didn't go so well in the first couple of seasons, would you go, no problem, let's see how it, you know, let's see it through? Because I don't know if we as a fan base have got the patience for that to happen. I'd like to think so. I'd like to think that maybe we get someone like, I don't know, O'Neill in until the end of the season and then go for Carrick and then give Carrick a 4 or 5 year contract and see what happens thereafter. But would we as a fan base accept that? Would we wait? Would we be happy for a 3, 4, 5 year project to come to fruition? I don't know. You tell me if you would be happy with that. Andrew, to be fair, Kudus, Alvarez and Todibo were in-demand players. Steidten done well, to be fair, to bring them to the club. Fulkrug, Mavropanos, Guilherme, not so good. Yeah, fair point. CC, Dan Ashworth will come in with Potter. He worked wonders at Brighton and Newcastle. So we got McCauley or Ashworth. You know, it's possible. Steidten is looking like he's on his way out, to be really honest with you. Obsidian. Maybe we're... it may also be to scupper things. We know he's not keen on Potter. He might try. Yeah, Potter, he is not a Sullivan favourite. This is the thing that I'm confused about. He has said it. He doesn't believe that Potter could be the right manager for West Ham United. Jonathan, come on, Stel. We know Sullivan can't help himself. He's a control freak. Yeah, we know. But what was the point of bringing in a technical director? Look, let's go back sometime when Steiden came in. When Steiden came in, David Moyes was still manager. And that's what he wanted to stay as. And when we won the trophy, etc., it gave David Moyes another season. And David Moyes insisted, I'll only stay with West Ham United if I'm still the manager. And Steiden had to bide his time, helped in the transfer window, but was a glorified scout under David Moyes. When David Moyes' contract was coming to an end, Moyes was given a new contract. He was then told, you're no longer going to be manager. You're going to be a head coach. And Steiden's going to take control of the transfer window. Why now would Sullivan change all that? Maybe because Steiden hasn't proved himself. Good evening to you, Mark. How are you? You got my hopes up today. I was really happy, mate. It's still happening. It's just a matter of time. How far behind am I? Goodness me. Fortunes. If you want to see a good cup run, go back and watch our run in the 1980s. I know we want it now, though, don't we? We want it now. Andrew. Darren, I'm not criticizing Guillermo. I think to spend a big amount of money on a player for the future was probably the wrong move. We needed players for the here and now. I agree with that. I agree that we needed players for the here and now. Make West Ham great again. Chris Hughton now being linked. I don't know where you got that from, but that's not true. Oh, man. As a short term? Not even as a short term. I met a bloke in the park walking his dog. He asked if I wanted to stroke his Cocker Spaniel. I said Spaniel. Good evening. Oh, man. How are you? Let's scroll down. Let's try and catch up. Rex, good evening to you. I take Potter. Chelsea was a basket case club at the time he went there. Yeah, fair point. True culture. My question to you and the fans, what style of play do you all want? Asking because of this. What style of play are you asking for because of this coach and the previous one? I think a lot of people are asking for entertainment, aren't they? David Moyes, he ran, his time had run out at West Ham. He wasn't taking us forward in the way that he did, ironically, when he came back for the second time. I don't think Lopetegui, I just don't think Lopetegui's brand of football is right for the Premier League. I think it's all right for maybe Spanish League or something like that. But I just don't think it will work. It works in the Premier League. We want entertainment, but at the same time, we want to be solid. Will Potter be the right person for that? Would Potter risk going to Spurs after his failure at Chelsea? Well, he believes he is a better manager than he would be for West Ham. We did pay out for Pardew, but not under this current regime. Hang on, he paid out for Pardew. Now you've got me thinking. He wasn't under this current regime, was he? So I don't know. Who else have we got here? Matthew. What about Kieran McKenna? Bring Delap with him. Well, I don't think either of them are going anywhere until they see what happens at Ipswich. Philip. To be perfectly honest, Spurs wouldn't offer Potter the job anyway. So irrelevant, I think. Interesting. Andrew, my worry with Potter is he seems very quiet. West Ham is a difficult club. My worry with Potter is he seems very quiet. West Ham is a difficult quiet. West Ham is a difficult club to handle. I'm not sure he's the gravitas or personality to deal with it. Interesting. Gennaro, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. I hope you are too. I take Ange in a heartbeat, mate. Do or die football is my kind of game. To be fair, Spurs have loads of injuries at the moment. David, Potter will turn us down as it's all over Sky and it's making Potter look like Voldemort. Who else have we got here? Let's scroll down. Brooke Bonds, good evening to you. Despite Loppy being rubbish at his job, he doesn't deserve this. Disgraceful. Yeah, maybe not. Not in the way it's being done. I agree with you. Dead Fallout channel, good evening to you. We're the only team in Europe's top 20 richest list that gets linked with these names. Joke owners. Gaza, it's going to be Cooper. No. If Everton want him, they would offer him more than a 6-month contract. I don't think it will be Cooper, to be honest with you. Ian, I assume Loppy will be visiting a solicitor tomorrow. Clear breach of employment law. He'll get a payoff. Mark, surely we will know tomorrow by who's taking training in the next few days. I would suspect so. Chris, I suspect the confirmation will come tomorrow. We certainly cannot prolong this situation. Unfair on Loppy as well as extremely unprofessional. I agree with that. Rex. and just reached the big league without a plan B. So it looks like you're not. I actually, for some reason, I thought many of you would have been Postecoglou fans. I remember before he got the Spurs job that everyone was crying for him to be a nominee to take the West Ham job. Oh God, we're fickle, aren't we? Aren't we? I don't know. Chicken Run. The Potter stories, the smokescreen. Southgate's going to be appointed. No, I don't know. Nothing's come out about that. Interesting. Peter, still, you could get the job as you're a dead ringer for Potter in, please. I don't want the bloody job. Well, I want the money. Don't think I want the grief. Chris, Darren, I said that on our live show. We should all dress up as clowns for the Will of... By the way, Chris, thank you to you for recommending people coming on this channel. I know you guys did a show just before mine, so appreciate that from you and Gary. Gennaro, I'm not sold on Potter. By the way, if you haven't subscribed to the Bobby Moore stand, do so. Do so. Don't do it now. Do it after the show. Subscribe to mine first, and then you can subscribe to his channel later. Gennaro, I'm not sold on Potter either, but he's an improvement on Lopetegui. If Potter is humming and hiring, move on. I'm in an R in, then move on. I agree. Hammer it. I didn't want Potter in the summer, but then I did not believe things could be this bad under Lopetegui. Bring him in with a clause for longer, depending on how we look at the end of the season. I agree with that. Kian, how are you? Long time no see. We was playing European football last year. We were indeed. Vegetar, good evening to you. Thank you for joining. I hope you're well. Paul Flicker, West Ham are a joke the way we do our business. I don't disagree. It isn't good. It isn't professional, is it? Darren, Gavin, mate, I hope you're well. Who would you want as manager or head coach? It's hard because I would want someone different in the summer than what I would want now. I'm not sold on Potter. I don't know why. Actually, let's look for a moment. Let's look at Potter's credentials. He favours a wing-back system, a wing-back type system. He favours three at the back. There'll be new. So there's possibly, if Potter came in, then you'd be looking at, are there going to be new roles for the likes of Wan-Bissaka, Emerson, Bowen, Somerville? Could all our wide players, what happens then? How will he set all these wide players up? Someone asked me earlier tonight before I came online, does that mean that if he favours a three at the back, would you put someone like Wan-Bissaka in as one of the three centre-backs alongside, I don't know, Todibo and Kilman? Interesting. I don't know. I think maybe Wan-Bissaka would relish being a kind of a wing-back role. We all said beginning of the season, he's not a wing-back, can't play that role. I think he's proved that he can go forward really well. Emerson was wing back. I was worried when we bought Emerson whether he would be good as a left back, because he was more accustomed to, acclimatized to playing as a wing back. So maybe for Wan-Bissaka and Emerson, they'll fit into a Potter system. But then what happens with Somerville and Kudus and Bowen? Do you start playing them more centrally? Who of those would you put centrally? Who's going to miss out? Because you play a 3-4-2-1 system. What are you going to have? If you've got Wan-Bissaka and maybe Emerson as your kind of wing backs and your three centre backs, then what? Who's going to fit in? Who's going to be up front? Bowen maybe, and then who else? It's going to be interesting. He focuses on possession-based football as well, and his best league finish, on my understanding, was 9th with Brighton. But what about O'Neill, who's the other person that apparently has thrown his hat in the ring? He knows the club. That's a good thing, isn't it? He did a good job with Wolves last season. Not so good this season, but he did a good job with Wolves last season. And I think a lot of fans, to be honest, were praising him at the end of last season and saying, Gary O'Neill, why not consider him for the job? He hasn't done well this season. So what does that mean? Did he not have the tools available to him at Wolves this season to do well? I don't know. He knows West Ham United. He's played for us. He plays a counter-attacking system, incisive, quick passing, etc. And I personally think that we would be better as a counter-attacking team. So maybe he would suit our setup or the players that we have better. He would give our front players more emphasis on attack. All of a sudden, we might see a very different... I mean, if he plays a 4-4-2 or a 4-2-3-1, all of a sudden you can see Wan-Bissaka, Kudus, Somerville, Emerson, and Bowen all starting in the same lineup. Whereas Lopetegui at this moment in time, Sixton seems to sort of like, he can't afford to play for some reason. He thinks he can't afford to play the likes of Somerville in front of Emerson. I think Somerville showed at the weekend that he's a very good footballer, and he had Wan-Bissaka behind him. So who would be better? Who would be better with the squad that we currently have to get more out of this squad? Would it be someone like O'Neill, or would it be Potter? In a way, you look at that information there, I'm beginning to wonder maybe it might not be Potter that will get the best out of the squad we have. Maybe it will be someone like Gary O'Neill for the interim. And then when it comes to the end of the season, let's see who else is available. And that's when we start looking at the likes of, either Silva or the manager at Bournemouth, whose name skips my mind at this moment in time, or even Thomas Frank from Brentford, or even the manager from Middlesbrough, Carrick. Rex, Potter was good everywhere. He'd been until Chelsea, but they were a basket case at the time, being forced to sell because of the Ukraine, etc. Nothing American billionaire calling the shots. Yeah, I don't know. I might be wrong on Potter. I don't know. I'm not thinking new manager bounce style, Lee. I'm thinking a good manager telling the players to go out there and play and express themselves. Surely he'll talk to the players and Noble. Good point. I like that. Jonathan, it's not about thinking he's bigger. It's only if it's only a 6-month contract, potentially there might be jobs where he could get a multi-year contract elsewhere like Spurs. It's just changing. Yeah, good point. Fair play, Bowling. But if he's offered a 6-month with a prospect of a longer term, if he does well, wouldn't he want to demonstrate that he's good enough? Bowling. Maybe rather than Potter thinking he's too big for us, he's weighing up if he can work for the poison dwarf. Yeah, good point as well. Elbow. I think I have this right. Potter's old team have new jobs. Well, I know one who has. He's back in Holland. Bjorn Hamburg. He's number 2. He's at Feyenoord now. That's an interesting point. Yeah, didn't think of that as well. Would he be able to get an entourage to back him? Yeah, maybe that's where our current backroom staff come in, the likes of Steve Potts and Kevin Keane, etc. Maybe he makes more use of them. Simon, Sullivan has offered Potter a poor contract, and that's the reason he's thinking about it. Gary, Bournemouth is obviously outperforming us. Would Iraola come to this train wreck? Maybe not now, but maybe at the end of the season. Maybe that's why we're looking at a short-term deal to maybe look at the likes of Iraola. Someone else said earlier on, he's the lowest paid manager in the Premier League. He earns £1 million a year, and by the end of the season, he'll have a year left on his contract. Buying him out ain't going to cost a lot of money, is it? You do the math. Mercedes. Still, if only some new investors would rescue us by buying out the dwarf. That's not materializing just yet. Who knows? That might come about. Jonathan, good evening to you. Could this whole thing be a plant set up to sack Tim Stein and discard him? Also, at last-ditch effort to undermine Board and Tim? I don't know if it's a plant to set up Stein. I think Stein has set himself up, to be quite honest with you. I don't think he's done that well, is the honest truth. Hamrick, got to say how appalling it is to treat Lopetegui so badly. Leaking this news, don't want him here, but I hate how he's been treated. Yeah, agreed with that. Brian, do you think Potter could get enough out of this squad plus a new midfielder to reach 7th place? No reason why not. And maybe that's why we're being linked to some of the Chelsea youngsters. Potter will know about them. Chukwuemba. I know we were linked to him in the summer. And there's another central midfielder from Chelsea whose name I can't remember, double-barreled name. Maybe that's why we're being linked to these players. Maybe if Potter's coming in, he's going to look at bringing some of the Chelsea players and not getting any game time. David, Potter or O'Neill, but at least a 1.5-year contract. We've got to, we have to get hard to play against, keep moving forward. Tim out in the summer. I wouldn't be upset if Steidham left, especially if we've got Macaulay or someone else coming in to work alongside Potter. Who knows? Elbow. West Ham will get Potter. Everton will get Allegri. They have the Italian connection. Interesting. Yeah. Anthony, it doesn't matter who comes in. You will be better in getting it. It doesn't matter who comes in. You would be better in getting blood out of a stone than make the new guy trying to get this new team to play for the badge. I don't know. Jonathan, Bright is based on a bespoke AI platform. Brighton is based on a bespoke AI platform, but Joe's system works if you ignore your data, analytics, team recommendations, from our Sullivans. Ahmed, yeah. Brighton, see, this is what I'm talking about, Brighton. Brighton have got a formula. Brighton have been working to a formula, and it's worked excellent for them. All they have to do is get a coach in to just manage, coach the players that they got. They've improved since Potter has left, Brighton. They got better since Potter has left. Ahmed, it's not Lopetegui the problem. The club is rotten from top to bottom. I think Lopetegui is a bit of a problem. Trini, Sullivan's still involved in transfers. Until we have a new ownership, it won't matter what management structure there is around the team. Steiden is good at what he does. I'm not sure. I thought he was good at what he does. And Sullivan being involved in transfers. Now, I said this last week, that story has been skewed somewhat. Steiden has definitely been, his role has been diminished. I don't deny that. He's not running off. Basically, what has to happen is now we've got to make sure that we're getting the right players in that the coach can use. Lopetegui has alluded to not having the right resources to play the system that he wants. Now, that could be Steiden's fault. It could be Sullivan's fault. It could be Steiden's fault. It's Steiden that was put in charge of transfers during the summer, is my understanding. I just think he screwed up a little bit. Pierino. Lopetegui father has just passed away. He went over, done the funeral, was back quick for the next match, and interviews, etc. So you can't knock his commitment. We should reciprocate. I understand that, but and fair play to him. He did come back. He came back maybe sooner than we rather have wanted, but I'm not so sure. Sentiment can't play. If we get relegated and we keep Lopetegui, we're going to say, well, we did the right thing. I don't know, mate. Stephen, if we get Potter, does that mean we get Ashworth as well? Many people have suggested this. I think Steiden's on his way out. New technical director, someone who knows. Why not Ashworth? Why not indeed? Michael, Sullivan has no man manager skills. Agree, Happy Hammer. Lopetegui has been treated badly. Victor, has our transfer been that bad, or is it the coach? He's not good enough to get the best out of the players. Playing 3 different systems in games don't help. I agree with that as well. It is confusing. I do think a different coach, a different manager could get more out of this squad. I do think that. But do I also think that we should have got Guilherme? I was happy that we got him, looking at the long term. But now I'm not so sure that was the right thing to do, or certainly not paying that sort of money for him. Nicholas Fulkrug, it felt like a desperation buy. We were running out of time and we needed a striker. Anthony, Potter will bring the attacking football we're craving for. Tim will be gone. Noble promoted to sporting director. Not yet. But I think Noble will be on his way to doing that job in the future. Bolin, totally agree. Actually, a bit sickening, to be honest. I want to say I can't believe how low they are, but the truth is, anyone that's surprised at how underhand they've behaved, it's not good leaking the news, without a shadow of a doubt. Matthew, do we know if Potter interviewed really well? We don't. Matt, do you think Potter will want to keep Tim if he joins? I don't know. Tim has now fallen out with 2 managers. I'm not so sure he'll want to. People are talking about Ashworth, Macaulay, etc. Maybe Potter will want to bring one of his own men in to do the technical director stuff. Maybe. Brooke Bonds. We should get Big Ange. His defending is just as crap as ours. Let's scroll down. How far behind am I? Goodness me, you guys got a lot to say tonight. Glenn, think West Ham will be left with egg on their face when Potter signs for Everton tomorrow? I don't think he's going to Everton. He wants a bigger club. Is Everton a bigger club? 6-month contract. Surprised Sullivan didn't offer him a 0 hours contract. Trini, in that game tonight, Wolves missed 3 sitters in the first half, and Forest were lucky not to be 3 down. There you go. Forest will be crap next season, Hammer Time. You're probably right. Huge. Where's Kretinsky? He's a top professional businessman. How on earth is he allowing this circus to continue? As I keep saying, unfortunately, whether we like it or not, Daniel Kretinsky is in it for that. He has someone representing him on the board, but Daniel Kretinsky, whilst the money's coming in, I don't think he gives 2 hoots. Well, he gives 2 hoots because it's his investment, but whilst his investment is reaping a reward, a return, how West Ham United run. I know we all heard, we're all told, oh, Tim Steiden is a Kretinsky signing. I don't know where that came from in the first place, to be quite honest with you. I think I don't think Kretinsky has much to say. He's never had much to say. He doesn't even go to board meetings. He's got his representatives there, and he doesn't seem to be involved too much in the day-to-day running. Kretinsky is a businessman. He's in it for the money. ZY, breaking. West Ham have offered the job to Potter. However, it's understood he's asked for a day to think about the role he could be taking. Meaning, if something better comes along, he'll take that instead. Gary, I don't know why Tim has become public enemy number one, to be fair. We have no idea what's happened behind the scenes. Why are we always so quick? Only because of the stuff I've read about him since he came to West Ham. I won't lie, Gary. I thought he was the right man for the job. I really did. I thought he was fantastic. I thought it was going to be a turning point for West Ham United. And then I started to read a bit more about what he did at Leverkusen or what he did not do. And the fact that a job came up, and he got overlooked for it. Someone else was promoted. He was upset by that. He fell out with Simon Rolfs, the sporting director of Leverkusen, which is why he left. And then it started to escalate from there. Who was the brains behind Leverkusen's the signings, etc.? Now, Steinen had a role. He went and closed the deals, so he's got a role. Absolutely, like I said earlier in the show, good salesman will sell you the dream and all that sort of stuff. Doesn't necessarily mean that he was the one that was finding these players. It's quite different. He had a role to play that was closing the deal, but the finding of these players, the unearthing of these pearls, doesn't seem to have been a Steiden thing that he was doing. Colin, I heard that what I know, Kudus and Alvarez was recommended by Mark Noble. We heard that as well. And he went over, Steiden, and closed that deal. That's why I'm now beginning to wonder whether Steiden was the messiah that we thought he would be. Huge. If we do manage to get Potter and then expect Steiden to leave, agreed. Dan Ashworth, be very interesting if we got Ashworth. It would be very interesting if we got Ashworth. Gennaro, Kudus doesn't want to be here, so I'd sell him now if the price is right. No one's going to pay 100 million for him. He'll go in the summer. He'll go in the summer no matter what. Maybe if we get Potter and Ashworth and then we sell them, maybe that, the likes of Kudus might turn around and go, I'll hang around and see what happens. Chris, even though he failed, Loppy deserves a dignified exit, which he hasn't been given. I agree with that as well. How far behind am I? I've got to catch up. Elbow. Thing is, Potter's been given until the end of the season, but you just know that he'll stay on and be given another 2-year contract because Brady will tell Sullivan to do so. That's why I think it's a no-brainer for Potter. I get what people are saying. If he's only been offered a 6-month deal, then why? But the 6-month deal does have an add-on, which means a bit like what Moyes was given. You do well, we'll give you a 2-3 year deal or whatever. Hammerett, let's be fair. He can go to the top of his job, manage a shining new stadium with a healthy transfer budget. He won't get a healthy transfer budget at Everton or with us answering to Sully, shithole ground, etc. He won't get a transfer budget at Everton. Darren, be funny if Potter turns it down because the way Lopetegui is being treated might turn a lot of managers' heads away from joining us. Good point. Yeah, good point. Mercedes, MC, I've questioned Noble's role since he was appointed. I mean, he has no experience or qualifications. He's learning the role. I don't think he'll come in as a tech director anytime soon. Maybe in a couple of years' time, but I don't know. Gary, speaking of pints and curry still, it's looking probable that I'm coming back to the UK in October. Mate, let me know. It'd be nice to see you again. Really would. Dexter, late to the show. Good evening to you, mate. Only our club can go through such a ridiculous situation as to what we're going through. I wouldn't be opposed to Potter, in my opinion. I think Tim is a bad egg as well. It's what I've been saying earlier on. Colin, Stell, Carrick and Keane assistant. Not now. Maybe not even in the summer. Maybe Carrick in, but he might want to bring a different entourage in. Maybe Keelan's background. Who knows? Hammerstad. I would accept a 5-year deal if academy players were frequently used and progressed. Yeah, good point. Yeah, that's the thing. You say to any future manager, we'll give you a 5-year deal, but you've got to demonstrate that you can actually develop the academy, bring them in, let's get the next Declan Rice in and all that sort of stuff. Trenny, much of our fan base is delusional and not wait for a long-term project to develop. Many of them feel we should win every game. I agree with that. That's what worries me about a long-term deal situation that I said about a long-term project. Do we have the patience as a fan base to see that through? I don't know. I really don't. Stephen, is Potter still on gardening leave or is he a free agent? That's a good question. Now, a lot of people are suspecting that he hasn't been given another job because he's still on gardening leave from Chelsea. If you want to demonstrate that you're a good head coach, turn around and say, I'm breaking the gardening leave clause. How much do you want me to give you back? Or how much more are you meant to pay me? I won't take it. I want a job. I want to see if he's a good head coach, he'll turn around and go, right, how do we renegotiate this gardening leave agreement? Vegeta, if West Ham win the next 3 matches, shave all. Shave what? What do you want me to shave, mate? Brian, how much money would you give a new 6-month coach for a new... How much money would you give a new 6-month coach for a new transfer? Do you mean how much money do you give them in the transfer window? Only what we need. And what we need right now, quite possibly, we need 3 players. I did a show last week about, improving the spine of the team. Another central defender, a box-to-box midfielder, and a striker. But I'd get them in on loan, with possibility to buy. Then you don't have to spend a lot of money at all. Excuse me. Breakfast Club. No point in any talk of who comes in till Loppy's actually gone. Good point. Totally agree with that as well. Daniel, long contract, big payout. High style, long contract, big payout. Same as Lopetegui's would suit fans and club better. Elbow. Moyes definitely won't come back to West Ham. He'll definitely see Everton till the end of the season. Then they'll get a high-profile manager. I think he might be going back to Everton. Thomas, Potter stopped getting paid by Chelsea last October. Thank you for that. So he is a free agent. Leon, he's still on Chelsea's books once he gets a new job that ends. There you go. True culture. How some fans want the coach to pick younger players, but they seem to forget that they've still got to play for a place in the league. You don't just pick the young players just for the sake of it. I agree with that. They've got to be good enough. Freddie Potts, bring him back. Bring him back into the team. He's demonstrated he's good enough, but not all of them are. Lopetegui is worse than Grant Joan. Goals conceded is shocking. He's had enough time. He's clueless in the Premier League. I'm inclined to agree, unfortunately. Jan, do you think Potter is a smokescreen to get someone else in? Good question. I don't know. I'm not too sure. I think it is Potter that is heading up the race at the moment. And the only other one at this moment in time, as far as I'm aware, is O'Neill. Colin, do we need to be patient? We do need to be patient. We need someone to rebuild the foundations. I agree with you. I totally agree. But will we allow that to happen? My cats, they're all downstairs with the missus, so I can do my show in peace. Espen, anyone who's not Sullivan's favourite might well be the right choice. That's a good point. Anthony, I meant Noble to be promoted to tech director. I agree. Yeah, not yet though, mate. I think maybe in a couple of years' time, but not necessarily now. Let's scroll down. Matt, Potter will use the youth like Guilherme. He did the same at Brighton, and then I'd invite him in with open arms if that was the case. Simon, Sullivan is not a well man. My belief is his family wanted him to pass duties on to a sporting director to take some of the pressure off. That's a really good point, that. And that is actually quite true. And that's why we did get another reason why we got a technical director. That's a really, really good point. He doesn't want to be. I know what we all think of, or a lot of people think of Sullivan, but he does want to take a back seat. He doesn't want to. That's why he got a tech director in. Dan Ashworth would be a decent tech director. Steiden, unfortunately, has not proved that he's capable. Bowling. What if it's a 6-month project? Look what happened the last time. The players knew the manager was here for 6 months. Not much motivation for the manager, knowing is that, well, if it's a 6-month with the potential of a longer term, I think some decent managers would go for that. No thanks to Jose. Darren, Stelios, imagine if Potter turns it down after the way Lopetegui's been treated. Wonder if any other manager would turn us down as well. Well, apparently Gary O'Neill is interested in the job. Do forgive me. I've got to scroll down and try and catch up because I'm finding that I am nearly 20 minutes behind you all. So do forgive me. Trodge, you can have pretty football under Potter with no goals or end product. Maybe that's why I'm not sold on Potter. I'm just not sure if he's the right one. Neil, fed up with boring football. I don't want Jose Mourinho anywhere near West Ham United. Montana, I heard that too. I have a feeling he's taken his time to study how to make his strikers score more. Who was that? What did Joan say? Sorry, Joan. I haven't seen your comments. Trini, what would a new manager do about lack of energy and legs in midfield? He would bring, you've got to allow him to bring in a few players. And I think we will get central midfielders in no matter who's in charge. Oh man, my fear is Potter does well on the short term, then sods off to a better deal. Fine. Then at the end of the season, we might have more options to go for a long-term manager. Trudge, and Potter didn't deal with elite players in Sweden, didn't do well with Chelsea stars either. That's a good point. Mark, if Potter was thought to be so good, there wasn't a lot of clubs wanting his services after Chelsea. That's a good point. Jerry, if Sir Southgate is hired, I'm going to go and support Spurs or Chelsea, as my granddad was centre forward for them in 1907. Gary, would love Ange, but we would have to change 8% of our squad to suit his entertaining football. Let's scroll down. Goodness me, you guys have got a lot to say about this tonight. Must admit. Funky T, another improving manager coming in. Potter did nothing at Chelsea. Loppe did nothing at Wolves. I can't see any improvement with Potter, unfortunately. Corky, sorry. Playing devil's advocate, but we had 17 shots at City, albeit a second-hand version, but not many sides will do that at the Etihad. Think we should make the change in the summer. I think we played well against Man City. I don't deny that at all. And I know a lot of people are saying, it was a second-rate team. They're not a second-rate team. Look at the squad that they've got. Look at the strike force they had. We didn't take our chances, unfortunately. That's the problem. Hammer it. I don't care how any potential manager did at their previous club. New coach, new ideas. Judging by their previous, hasn't exactly worked for us till this point. Obsidian, Deitch manager, Cooper assistant, Moyes director of football, change our name to West Hell. Apparently Fonseca's not being considered. We know Rooney's looking for a job. Regarding Potter, Jack, Potter and Cooper aren't they both on gardening leave? If they were to accept other jobs, they would have to give up their current contract. Someone said earlier, apparently, Chelsea stopped paying Potter in October. So there you go. Sophie, good evening to you. I'd be excited by Potter, definitely. Think he'd get the best out of Somerville, Kudus and Wan-Bissaka. One reason why we're linked to Ferguson, and one reason maybe why we're linked to a couple of the Chelsea young players as well. Interesting. Would he get the best out of Somerville? Well, I did say earlier on, to be honest with you, Sophie, there will probably be new roles for the likes of Wan-Bissaka, Emerson, Bowen, Somerville, Kudus. Would he be able to play all of them in the same team? I don't know. I'd like to think he would. Gary, I don't care what style we play. I don't want to play scared anymore. I want us to give everyone a game. I want teams to dread playing us, win, lose, or draw. Joan, Rooney as a player manager would need experience centre forward. No, thank you, but no thank you. David, Potter's team struggled to score. Get him a striker, he will do well. Get who? Lopetegui a striker and he will do well? Oh, do we? I don't know about Lopetegui, to be honest with you. I really don't. Pierino, no manager with ambition should touch West Ham and be tainted by the Sullivan smell. Nil. Joe, no way. Only scoring Shrek can do these days would be to involve powder, grannies, or both. Damien, we won't need a new longer-term appointment. Potter will do a good job. Read up on him. The evidence is there. I have read up on him, which is why I'm not 100% convinced, unfortunately. I'm just not. Retro James, good evening to you. Strange how all this comes about since Potter was announced. Favourite with bookies to take over from Ange at Spurs. And I think Potter would prefer the Spurs job. Lee, did Brighton have that formula when Chris Hughton was in charge? Because basically they were trying to save them from relegation every season. I don't know how long they've had it in for, to be honest with you, that system. You might be right. Julio, has anybody ever thought about what credibility Sullivan has in spotting players for West Ham? Well, it's not him spotting them, is there? It's his Storthouse that spots them. Stells, Heartless. What have I done wrong now? Hammer it. Sully just can't help himself, can he? Leaking shit. I don't know if he has leaked this. I genuinely don't know if it's him. I'm looking at the German, to be honest with you. Teapot, haven't seen you for ages. I hope you're well. Cooper was at the game because he was being considered for the Man City job. There you go. You put that one right. Pat Pong, good evening to you. Brighton and Brentford are now run how a Premier League team should be run. With Brady and Sully never going to happen. David Gold, rest in peace, forgot players' names, but understood the game and even played to a decent level. And this is maybe why we brought the technical. That's why I thought we brought the technical director in, to separate the business end. Let Brady and Sullivan deal with the business end. Let the tech director. Someone else said, Sullivan's ill health, etc. He doesn't want to be involved in the day-to-day running. Maybe a Dan Ashworth might help solve all that if he comes in with Potter. That's if Potter comes in. Montana. Loppy looked out of his depth since the preseason. I couldn't see any playing patterns. We are yet to see it. I agree. I gave him time, but unfortunately, I agree with you. I think his time has come to go. Right. I've got 466 people watching. I don't know how many of you are actual subscribers of the channel, but if you're not, please subscribe to the channel. Costs you nothing to become a subscriber. And also, please hit that like button if you're enjoying the content. Neil, is it just me, or does Cooper's face look like it's frozen in the wind tunnel? He would definitely scare the youths away. How far am I? I'm getting closer. Darren, Sky Sports saying Everton defo interested in Potter if they get... I think there will be teams interested in Potter, without a doubt. I hope you're better, mate. Nigel, Tim didn't build anything at Leverkusen. Thank you. I said it, and I'm glad he backed it. You know the person I'm talking about, the German that you introduced me to. He gave me a lot of details. I've forgotten his name. What's his name? He stands in the Bobby Moore with us. But you're absolutely right. There you go. That's Nigel there, saying the same thing as I just said a few minutes ago. Peter, hope Potter starts tomorrow, gets us all geared up for the Villa clash. Who else we got? Andrew Kretinsky has no attachment to West Ham, was never going to invest big money into the squad. Said it. And I know you all think, he was coming as our messiah, but he wasn't. Ashworth was on a lot of money at Newcastle and Man U. We won't offer big money. Interesting point. Dead Fallout channel. Even if Tim is just a deal closer, even if Tim is just there to do the deals, that's still an upgrade on Brady and Sullivan doing it. Yeah. Not saying he's got a role to play, but not the role that we all thought he was going to come in and do. Montana, Villa and Newcastle made the Champions League before us. Now Forest will make the Champions League before us because of the Pygmies' indecisiveness. I despise him. David, couldn't care less about Tim. Good manager will sort this circus out if he's allowed to. Agreed. Pat, this is all down to Sullivan and Brady. They chose Lopetegui and were messed up not getting Duran. Talked about Duran before and earlier on, but went for the cheap option. No, they didn't. That was Steiden's choice. Conor Gallagher was never coming to West Ham. I'm sorry, mate. I'm not putting you down, but Conor Gallagher made it clear that he was never going to play for another Premier League team, which is why he went abroad. I would have loved Conor. I think West Ham United would have loved Conor Gallagher to come to West Ham. And when it comes to Duran, as I said earlier in the show, it's because Aston Villa wanted a replacement. It wasn't forthcoming, which is why they didn't sell him. Sean, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Have I missed out? No, we're just talking about Lopetegui and Potter and O'Neill. Ralph Doobie time, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Jack Flash, we could get a partnership with Potter and Cooper. We can call them Pooper. James, the way our club is run is embarrassing. Why not is all this done behind closed doors until all is sorted? I do agree. That news breaking out today was awful. Ronnie, why is everyone going on about how Loppy has been treated? He will get paid a good amount of money on termination. It's obvious he's not that good. Well, that's a good point as well. Anthony, did Fulkrug not have a big falling out at Dortmund, and this is why he's not playing much? He had a falling out with Terzic, but no one here at West Ham. He hasn't played much because he's just been injured. Oh, well, do you mean he didn't play much at Fulkrug? But he played in the Champions League final. Rangers, 1, 2, 3. When are we expecting a statement regarding Lopetegui's second at West Ham? I think you might see that happening tomorrow. Talking Hammers, Sean just tweeted an update saying Potter has agreed in principle. Lopetegui's sacking will be confirmed in the next 24 hours. Montana, Stel, can you compare our transfer expenditure with Villa, Newcastle, and Forest over the past 3 or 4 seasons? I can look at it. I bet you it's quite favourable. We've spent money, mate. We've not been short on spending money, but I will look at that. Trudge, we spent more than Villa over the last 5 years, but Newcastle spent 25% more than us and probably thrown in a free Ferrari and other perks. Victor, there you go. There's your answer. People talk about Dan Ashworth coming in. His transfer at Man United had been just as bad as ours. That's a good whole point as well. Let's scroll down. David, if we was getting Potter in, if we was getting Potter, it would have been done. We all have told people, let me think. We all have told people, let me think about it. All we told people is let me think about it. Well, he might agree tomorrow. Brian, Stella, I believe it's tough to trash Steiden without knowing details of all the signings. We don't know how much Moyes, Loppe, Sully have forced their influence. We just speculate. I'm not going just by that. I'm also going by what happened at Leverkusen. And it took me a while to look at the details. And it wasn't Steiden that was the magic wand at Leverkusen. And now I look at what we've done. I'll go back to what I said earlier on, Brian. The first signing of the summer was a Steiden signing. It was out in Brazil. You know, Sullivan, if Sullivan wanted to scupper that, I would have told him, forget about it. I'm not paying £25 million for an unknown 17-year-old, 18-year-old player. You know, Steiden also was the one that brought in Fulkrug, because they knew him. They knew each other from Werder Bremen. You know, no one thought, you know, if Sullivan wanted to scupper that as well, we could have turned around and gone, no way, not paying that money for a 31-year-old. Steiden put those through, you know, and then you've got to look at the likes of Rodriguez, etc. And then when I started to look at what happened at Leverkusen, all of a sudden, it was beginning to make sense. He's a good finisher of a deal, goes in, you know, finishes a deal, gets that deal over the line, but he's not necessarily the one that was finding these players in the first place. Chip, great content as always. Rumours of Loppe going may make the players express themselves without repercussions on Friday. Good point. Thank you for that comment, Chip. Much appreciated. Trini, if Sully wants to take a back seat, sell to those who see this as a proper project and develop our club. Yeah, that good point. But he could end up selling it to a far worse owner like the Man United owners. Still, mate, considering how the story has come out today, maybe Loppe might take legal action against the club, not if he's paid off, and possibly have legal actions do so. For apparently not. I see that. But if he's paid off, he'll walk off into the sunset, and that'll be that. Mandy, to play exciting football, you need a dynamic midfield that we do not have. That's a really good point. Frog in the wall. Potter is no solution, yet another sticking plaster. That's what's going on in my head as well. I like the lap of Ipswich. Reminds me of a young Jamie Vardy. Never stops running. Strong, young, and fast. Yeah, but if Ipswich stay up, he's going nowhere. How is Potter unproven? It's not that he's unproven. It's the system that he played under at Brighton that I've been talking about. There's a system in there that you've only got to look at Brighton since Potter left. They've improved with the other managers that they've had. Gaines, good to see Fulkrug get a decent goal. He does look like he's been eating too many Frey Bentos pies. Jack, 31% win rate at Brighton, 39 at Chelsea. Avram Grant, 32% win with us, 67 at Chelsea. I didn't know that. Thank you for that information. Stuart, Potter is so suited to West Ham and we will love him. I hope you're right. I really, really do hope you're right. Montana, McKenna has figured it out. I feel Ipswich might escape the drop. I see us getting dragged into a relegation fight if Loppe doesn't get the boot. Wow, you've kept me on my toes tonight. Frog, I'd pay to see Sullivan's face if Potter gives us the finger. Dallas, match days, that is. Not often on Saturdays anymore. Yeah, well, that's the beauty of football being televised. They choose when our football is on. Mark, latest from Florian Plettenberg is West Ham waiting for a response from Potter. Talks in December were around a 6-month contract, but now talks are around a longer-term deal. Gary, I'd lose it if Noble took over as an interim and people started being disrespectful to him as there have been over our other managers. Noble won't take it. He doesn't want it. I doubt very much that will happen. Paul, I pressed the like button years ago. You've got to press it again every single time. Nick, Stell, tell me he's gone. He hasn't gone yet. I hope you're well, Nick. Iron Brew. Has he been sacked yet in chat? No, he hasn't been sacked yet, but apparently the offer for Potter is there. Retro, give this man a like. Thank you very much and subscribe. Thank you. Please do that. Nick, for your information, the like button ain't the heart in the live chat. Close the live chat for a second. Hit the... see? I've been doing this for years. I didn't know that. So do what he just said. For your info, the button ain't the heart in the live chat. Oh, yeah, that's not the... yeah, no, I get that. Close the live chat for a second and hit the like, people. Thank you. Do you want to run the back room for me, Nick? For goodness sake. I didn't... you know what? I've never told people that. I didn't know that. Funky T. Apparently, Fat Frank has been spotted in the London Docks interview pending. Montana. Sean has tweeted that Potter wants to sleep on the idea, managing at the bowl if he turned it down. Imagine if he turned it down. Neil. Just venting some pent-up frustration. I will put it on record. I am a fan of the Hills. Have eyes. Corky. Loppy only needs 3 wins and a draw to beat Avram's points total. He's also on a 30% win rate compared to Avram's 19%. Iron Brew. Without the claret-tinted specs on, would you guys say West Ham are a bigger club than Newcastle? I'll let someone else answer that. Schizo, how are you, mate? I hope you're well. I'm joining in late. Can't imagine what you've all been talking about. Yeah, we've been talking about how the weather's been so bad, mate. I hope you're well. Obsidian. Steiden wasn't the magician, but he was the apprentice, or maybe the tart in the sparkly bikini who gets sawn in half. Neil, Iron Brew. Impossible question. The Barcodes are a one-team city, and they did the dirty on Gateshead. I think the clubs are on a similar footing. Yeah. Nick, trust West Ham to appoint a duffer director of football. Come on, Nick. Even you must have thought at the time that he was the bee's knees. I certainly did. The fact is, either way, it's on Sullivan. Yep. If he is shit, or if Sullivan has hamstrung him, I think it's just that Steiden has been proven to be shit, to be honest with you. Colin, I actually feel still we might have made a big mistake not getting Conceição. I don't know. We want a long term. You know, whatever happens, you know, now and in the summer, I want to see a long-term solution to our manager. I want to see, like I said earlier on, I want to see someone for the long term. I want to see someone come in for the next 3, 4, 5 years, you know, including the academy, you know, build a long-term proposition. Hayden, Sullivan could sell to a consortium of fans. The consortium could vote on who represents them at boardroom level. Will a consortium be able to afford to buy out his? I don't know if we could. A lot of iron. Great show. Thank you. What about Gary O'Neill? Expert talked about him earlier on. Apparently, there's 2 choices at this moment in time. Potter being the main one, and Gary O'Neill has thrown his hat into the ring. Bolin, Grant's league win percentage was awful. Loppy's played 1 cup game. Loppy's not good, but those stats are skewed. Dead Fallout. Fat Frank wasn't spotted at the docks. He was spotted. I'm down at the bottom, thank goodness, because I'll tell you what, my voice is gone. How long is long term? For me, long term has got to be a 4 or 5 year project to see it through. That means you're bringing in your youth through as well. Right, I've caught. Oh, you had to put that in, didn't you, Highest? A few decades ago, Liverpool were a mid-table team. They went for a well-established coach, not a mid-table coach. They went in for a coach who was winning leagues and also playing Champions finals. 2 up, 2 down. How can we call Tim the Pearl Diver when he's only delivered puffer fish? Colin, I would say we're a bigger club than Newcastle. Bigger fan base, just got wrong people running the club. Dead Fallout, 16th richest club in Europe. Shouldn't need to scrimp over these pony managers. That's it. I'm stopping. I've done an hour 43. My voice is going. I think you got the gist of the show tonight. we've spoken about just one thing and one thing only. So, a summary. So far as we know, the news was premature that came out from Talkshite. Should have known that, shouldn't I? But the understanding is that Lopetegui is leaving West Ham United. It's just a matter of when, and not an if. It's definitely when. With regards to who's coming in, as you've all heard, Potter is the man that's been offered the job. He's taking his time to think about it. If it's not Potter, then I think Gary O'Neill might be the other alternative. Any other alternatives beyond that, I do not know at this moment in time. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for commenting. You've really kept me on my toes. A lot of comments have come in. Absolutely fantastic. And I really, really appreciate that. If you've yet to subscribe, what are you waiting for? It's free of charge. And please also hit that like button. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for getting involved. I'll be back with another West Ham Weekly tomorrow night. I don't know if anyone's on. I hope not. And I'll do the normal West Ham Weekly show. This has been a special purely about the manager situation. Thank you all for watching and listening, and I'll see you all soon.